Patrick, so we both like Stephen Pressfield, right? We're fans.
Never heard of the guy. I'm joking. Of course. Big fan. War of Art is an essential book.
I bring it up because there's this quote that I found through Brainy Quote, because whenever I'm looking for quotes on certain areas, I dive into that. So the quote is, all of us need to begin to think in terms of our own inner strengths, our resilience and resourcefulness, our capacity to adapt and to rely upon ourselves and our families. And the topic that we're going to cover today is resilience. And as we're recording this, so this is the first episode of season 2. Welcome to season 2 of PM Talks. But yay, we made it. We did it. But we are recording this in mid-November, literally mid-November. So I felt when we came up with these topics, we did not know.
No, we didn't plan this.
We didn't plan it. And again, it I think there's been enough space between when that November, I guess it was November 6th, right, to today, that there is some perspective, which we have talked about before, but the need for resilience, I think it's
is even greater.
It's a tricky thing because, first off, some people think there's a distinction between grit and resilience. I don't know. Do you feel that?
Nope. No.
Okay. So tell me what you believe in terms of those two.
Right. So, okay. All right. And gosh, I got to stop fussing with stuff. My hands want to be active today. Grit is, I always associate kind of with determination.
Right.
Perhaps it's one of the outflows maybe of being resilient, but it is not resilience, right? Okay. Resilience is, here's a good way to put it. And the Bengals fan will appreciate this. Grit is offensive. Resilience is defensive.
Yeah. I was just going to say, so, I mean, when you look at it, grit is more about the perseverance aspect, whereas resilience is about the ability to recover from adversity and adapt. So it's.
Yes. And I would say, don't mistake the fact that it's defensive as not active, right? This is why the football analogy works, right? Because playing defense is a very, very active part of a team, of a football team, right? I mean, you are having to watch multiple things kind of coming at you. You're trying to defend against them. You're trying to also, while doing that, make your way to the ball, to the quarterback who has the ball, and try to get him down. Like you're trying to break. Like it's like you're actually fighting on multiple fronts, right? Whereas with offense, sure, there's a lot of similar things where you're also trying to avoid the defenders and try to get around them and break through the defenses so you can get downfield and get yourself in a position to be able to catch the ball. But I would argue that defense is harder from an activity standpoint. And also from a mental standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And that if you can master defense, then the offense doesn't matter.
So the term resilience is from the 1620s. It's the act of rebounding or springing back, often of immaterial things, from the Latin resiliens, present participle of resiliere, which is to rebound or recoil. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
the idea of elasticity, power of returning to original shape after compression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when, the Bengals is apt in terms of what they're doing. I mean, as we're recording this, they're still within the possibility of reaching the playoffs, but they're 4-6. Like, they better
Yeah.
be resilient if they are going to have a hope of making the playoffs, right? Like, they have to
Yeah.
tap into that. And again, it's the setback after setback after setback. How can you give me an example of when you felt that you had to be really tap into resilience? Like, is there anything other than because we can't predict the future, consider let's couch our responses accordingly. Because I don't have a spare room for your entire family in my house.
Because that was going to be a question after the show. Yeah, no, that's okay. Our friend Avery has a place in Vancouver
There you
that I'm
go.
sure we can take care of that
There
if
you
it
go.
needs to come to that. Yeah. No, here's the deal, right? Yes. I would argue, gosh, several times in just the past 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yep.
And not just because of the election, but just just general life stuff, right? My wife's car had a catastrophic problem that
Right.
made it unable to drive, right? And my wife visits clients all day. She's out and about. She needs a vehicle, right? There's no question about it, right? And I need one too for the stuff that I need to get done during the course of the day. We are the sort of family that definitely uses two cars, like, actively, right? And life throws those things at you where one day your car won't start. What do? Well, you have to be resilient about that, and you have to come up with another plan. You have to figure it out, right? You have to still have the same appointments you got to keep, and you can't just blow off folks for weeks while you look for another car. You have to keep going, right? Uh, Several other unexpected expenses came up almost literally at the exact same time, right? Oh, jeepers, how are we going to pay for those? And how are we going to pay for our other bills if we pay for those? And once again, you have to be resilient. You have to basically say, yep, this sucks, but I'm not going to let the suck, like, compound and keep, like, I've got to figure out my way around it because there's no other choice, right? You just have to figure that out, right? The truth of the matter is that resilience doesn't have to show up with even this big stuff, right? My daughter is learning it with circus, right?
Yeah.
Where she during the summer show, she injured her foot. Actually, a bed trampoline ran into the back of her foot, back of her ankle.
Oh, that's like
And
awfully close to the Achilles.
yeah. Well, it bruised all that stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't break anything, luckily, but it bruised it all, including, like, the bruise stretched down underneath her foot. And so it made it really difficult for her to put her weight on her heel, right? And she had to, she says, oh my gosh, my foot is hurt, I can't perform in the show anymore. But that's an entire act that they would have had to rework. It's the opening act of the show at that.
Yeah.
They would have had to rework this act. They would have had to completely, like, redesign it, having one less person, right? Because all of the tricks within the act were partner tricks.
Right.
And without the partner there, you have to redesign the tricks and redesign the act, right?
So same thing you
so
do.
What does she do?
Yeah, same thing in football, right? Yeah, same thing.
She performed.
But did she get the cortisol shot before? Like football players?
No.
Get out there. No.
She had, luckily we have actually physical trainers and physical therapists that are from a local orthopedic PT place that happens to sponsor Circus Juventus. Well, part of that sponsorship involves them sending a dedicated team for all circus rehearsals and performances for exactly reasons like this.
Right.
So they were able to wrap it, to stabilize it, and she performed. This happened like 3 performances in. She performed for the rest of the run, for the next 20 whatever performances, with her foot wrapped up and basically walking on the front of her foot, which then she had done for so long. And like it, once again, she performed the act at full speed. This was not like no adjustments were made, right?
Yep.
Well, she gets done with the performance. We think, okay, great. This got a chance to heal now. Well, it took forever to heal. Why did it take forever to heal? Because walking on the front of her foot, on one of her feet, the other foot, and she's like doing that. Well, she got plantar fasciitis really bad in the bottom of her foot. And now she's got a whole other reason why she can't put weight on her foot. And oh, shoot, we've got a trip to New York scheduled to tour 7 colleges in 3 days with her foot like that, right?
Yeah.
Once again, all of this takes, she's 16. The resilience of that kid, right? To just push through the pain, push through the setbacks, push through, and do what needed to be done. Why? Because she had others depending on her. She didn't, to do otherwise would have put a lot of, forced a lot of other people to be resilient and to, and to figure it out, right?
Yep.
No, she took that resilience on herself. I mean, the truth of the matter is that we deal with varying levels of resilience all day, and it doesn't have to be a major life event. It doesn't have to be, it could just be a meeting that you were looking forward to that got canceled, or, that promotion that you were supposed to get that didn't come through, or you walk out to your car and you've got a dead battery because you forgot to turn the lights off, right? I mean, resilience is something that we all face, and and need to find and almost on a daily basis. But really, it is it's how you deal with these things when they come up, how you decide to face them. It is your perspective that really delineates between being resilient or having to just throw up your hands. So I give up, right? And and I think it's really about how do you find that perspective that drives you to resilience.
Well, we have that episode about perspectives that we're definitely going to link back to because it does have a role. One of the things you brought up though was, when Beatrix is going through this, is this idea of, it got me thinking about purpose, right?
Yeah.
And the role that purpose has in fueling and fostering resilience, because I think, I would imagine, like, if you don't have a purpose, then resilience doesn't have as much strength. So right. I wonder if you're noticing that you're not resilient about something or in a situation, then it's worth assessing what's going on to figure out, number one, do you have anything driving you or anything that's like a north, or what's sucking things away from. I just did a webinar where somebody was talking about, I was talking about the power of daily theming. And one person said that they used themes typically to get the stuff that they hated to do done. And I'm like, that is not
Oh,
healthy,
oh yeah,
because now you have
yeah,
nothing to look forward to every single day. Like, I mean,
right,
I think that if you can find words that can
huh,
wrap that stuff up, that's fine, because words have
mm-hmm,
power. But
mm-hmm.
if that's happening, then I question the purpose that's going on. Like, what do you think? Like, let's explore that a bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want to go back to that thing about the theming and the person
Hmm.
in the seminar there, and that is, you know, right. What is purpose, but a why,
Hmm.
right? Why am I doing this, right?
Yep.
Why? What's the result I'm seeking? What is the end result, right? And I'm going to push back a little bit. If that person is using theming to find their why, to get through the things that they don't really enjoy doing, I would argue that that is a strategy of resilience.
Yeah, I just think that it is easily compromised because how long a day is. Like, there's 24 hours in a day, whereas I would see that I think a more appropriate way to tap into the power of resilience is to use it for more of a horizontal theming. So instead of dedicating an entirely overarching focus to your day to whatever that thing is you don't like, instead dedicate like an hour across multiple days,
Fair,
right?
fair. So was his like theme for the day the stuff I hate theme?
No, 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 no,
Like,
no. It was very
like
specific types of activities that they were not
I
fond
got
of. So
I
it's the
gotcha.
same reason why, like, so the Pomodoro technique is a very valuable tool. And this actually touches into the idea of resourcefulness too, because if
Right,
if
right.
resilience is the unseen, then resourcefulness is the seen. Like, you know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, so if again resilience is tapping into the why, then resourcefulness is then the how, right? So
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, I think about it like the Pomodoro technique. There are people who use it very specifically to get the things that they want to get done in short bursts of time. I don't, I use the Pomodoro technique when I do use it to do the tasks I don't like doing. And the reason
Oh,
is
interesting.
because it's only 25 minutes. So again, I
Uh,
can deal with 25 minutes of doing like this mundane thing or this thing I don't enjoy versus, again, like, dedicating an entire day to data entry, let's say, like it's
mm-hmm,
data day. I mean, I have a daily theme called
mm-hmm,
analysis, and
mm-hmm,
luckily there's enough stuff that fits in it that I don't particularly enjoy doing analyzing, but I do recognize its importance. And the purpose of that analysis is to, create better stuff, to make sure that I'm
mm-hmm.
accessing. Like, so there is a greater purpose behind it, to your point about purpose. Same thing, like if Beatrix really hurt herself and did not enjoy it, like the circus stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
there would be no performance. It'd be like
Right,
because there's
right,
no
right,
purpose
right. What's
behind
the
it, right?
point? Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, getting back to the circus stuff, she recently dropped wire, high
Okay.
wire, bouncing on the wire. Well, specifically high wire. Um, uh, for a number of different reasons. She loved wire. She really enjoyed wire.
Hmm.
She hated high wire, right? There are varying levels of wire. When I say, wire walking, people typically think of, oh, up on a high wire, between the Twin Towers or something,
Right.
right? Yeah. Uh, well, sure, yes, that's wire walking, but also, slacklining is wire walking, where you string a nylon, basically truck tie between two trees, right? And people doing that, right? And
Hmm.
you're maybe 3 feet off the ground. That's wire walking as well. And so there are various levels of wire walking. Um, at Circus Juventus, we have low wire,
Hmm.
we have uh, mid wire, but we have two sets of mid wires. We have a 3 foot mid wire, and low wire is about 2 feet, uh, uh, 2.5. So 2.5 feet, 3.5 feet for one mid wire. The other mid wire is about 6 feet.
Okay.
Okay, so there's high and low mid wire,
Sure.
right? Uh, for whatever reason, and there are reasons behind this. They're all ridiculous if you ask me, but it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
The level of progression, skill progression, goes from low wire
Mm-hmm.
to low mid wire
Mm-hmm.
to high wire, and high wire is what you think. It is
High.
30 feet up in the air.
Sure.
Right?
That's a big jump. That's a very big leap.
Exactly.
It's like 5x, right?
Yes. To high midwire.
Okay.
In other words, right? So she's fine with doing high midwire.
What, how high is high midwire?
High midwire.
High midwire is
6. That's the 6.
That's the 6 feet one. Okay. So the 5x,
right.
the 5x is again, it's like 30 feet. Like that is a big leap.
Yeah, it's a big leap, but there's a reason for that.
Sure.
Not the least of which is because that is that's set up high, but it's got its own dedicated net underneath.
Sure.
That net underneath is only basically a lower wire's length below the high wire bar.
Right. It's kind of like when you go to a public pool and you see the different diving boards, right? Like there's low, and then all of a sudden you go from like this middle, and they're like, why is the next one that far up? Right.
Exactly. Right. Similar. Right. Well, but unlike the diving, like the length for which you have to fall off the high wire is much shorter. It's similar to the low wire. The difference is that with the low wire, you're falling off onto a mat.
Right.
The high wire, you're falling off into a net. Right.
Gotcha.
Right. So, yeah. I'm trying to make this shorter.
That's okay.
Bottom line is this: the tension of the high wire is different than the other wires.
Okay.
Number one. Just structurally, that's the way it ends up. Is the case. Number two, falling off onto a mat and falling off into a net is a much different feeling.
I bet.
When you fall off to that net, a net you can see through. Yeah. You're still looking down, like your vertigo is still gonna kick in because you're still 30 feet up in the air, right? So when you're falling off into the net, right? Even though you're falling the same distance, it feels a lot different. It's a lot scarier, right? It just your mind needs to do that mental switch, right?
Well, because you're not spending all your time up there. It's an orientation thing.
It's an orientation thing, and finally, if you already suffer from anxiety, such a thing can be really triggering.
So is that it? Is that the reason?
That's it. She had been promoted from low mid wire to high wire. She has been in high wire now she's given it her college try. She's been in for about, I want to say 2 months now. And she just cannot get used to being comfortable up there.
Okay. So how did she feel?
And so what that means is that she has quit wire altogether.
Oh, so no wire, like none.
Well, so, she's talked to the coach. He understands, he gets it. They don't have the high mid wire now, the 6 foot one now. She said, hey, if you bring that back, I'd be very interested in doing that. But that would mean the coach actually overriding the prerequisite. And the prerequisite for the high mid wire is going to high wire. You have to go through high wire to get to high mid wire.
Okay. So this is interesting to me,
but it's a thing.
It leads to some other questions. So number one, I think that, stability we talked about, like the idea of the role of stability and resilience. When you have more stability in a situation, then your resilience doesn't have to work as hard, right? So when you have something compromising that, whether it's emotional or whether it's not, like an external factor that has nothing, that can kind of compromise resilience. But here's something to flip that on its head a bit. So since Beatrix is not doing wire at all now because of the way that they've kind of compartmentalized you could look at this from two vantage points. Number one, I'm not going to get any better at the wire. But
Mm-hmm.
by virtue of that, you can then dive deeper into the other areas of circus more so because you're not spread. It's depth over
Mm-hmm.
breadth, right? So I think that,
Exactly. Yeah.
but then that leaves me. So that could be one of the things where you might be resilient for the wrong reason, just to stay in it, just to stay in it. It's like, again, no, like what is the reasoning behind it? And
Mm-hmm.
because you're kind of making chicken salad out of chicken shit in a manner of speaking when this happens, because you're like, okay, well, I can't do this anymore, but that means I can do this. I can dedicate more focus, attention, energy, effort
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah.
And again, it may not be the best example in this situation with Beatrix, but I think with others, if they're like, well, I can't do this anymore because of X, Y, Z, but because of that, I recognize that I don't have to use my resilience or my willpower, any of these tools. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
give them that. Instead, I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of calibrate. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that when do you know knowing when to quit is important too, because because otherwise you're wasting your efforts of resiliency on something that doesn't really warrant it.
Right. Right. Well, and here's a case where she was resilient for
Mm-hmm.
at least 2-3 months worth of this, right? She has been resilient in trying her best to get used to that wire, right? And she just decided it wasn't ultimately worth it, that it
Yeah.
wasn't worth the time, that it wasn't worth the training, and that it and and also with no necessary guarantee it would get her to what it is. Not like someone told her, it's not like a regular, like a school where like, oh, if you just take Spanish 1 this semester, you can do Spanish 2 next semester,
Right.
right? No, it doesn't work that way. It is, you know, once you have mastered and perfected high wire, we will then promote you to the high mid wire,
Right.
right? Like, so even that was like no necessarily guarantee. And if she wasn't feeling comfortable now and she wasn't feeling comfortable after 2 months, would she feel comfortable on it after, I don't know, another basically rest of the year of it? Um, I well, she didn't believe so. She didn't believe she was ever going to get comfortable, and therefore, why? Why why waste that time? Why waste that energy? Why do that training if ultimately there's no guarantee it will even get her to where she wants?
So I wonder, this is as you were talking about this, and as I'm thinking about these kind of qualitative stuff that we're going to explore more so, and we've already explored them in our previous episodes of PM Talks, but in season 2 as well. The role of perseverance, I think that's probably what was happening more. Resilience.
Mm,
No. But
sure.
I think I'm trying to,
Hmm.
so I'm looking at this as kind of like a Venn. Here we go. Zooming in. I have
Yes.
this I love my Obspot camera. I'm still getting used to the audio or the AI stuff. Shout out to Obspot, by the way, for sending me this camera. They are not a sponsor, but I wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
so
of course.
so I look at this almost like a Venn diagram of like perseverance and resilience, right? So perseverance and resilience go like they are cousins, but the thing that connects them is willpower, like will.
Hmm.
Because to your point, you were talking about how, well, you have to do this and you have to do that, or this needs to happen. And Beatrix stuck with it, like many people do. I'll stick with it. I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. That's perseverance, right? And resilience is it didn't do so well for me. I'm going to bounce back like that. But eventually willpower, the will to do it is kind of like, okay, this isn't paying off. So
Hmm.
am I going to persevere any longer? No. Oh, well, then that means I don't need to be resilient about it because I've kind of, I wouldn't say given up, but there is some connective tissue there, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, given up, probably no, is probably not the right phrase. I guess what I would say is, because I've decided that it's not ultimately going to get me where I want to
You're
go.
letting it go. You're letting it go.
You're
Maybe giving
letting
it
it
up is
go.
not the
Yeah.
right thing, is letting
Yeah,
it go.
letting it go. Yeah, letting it go. Now that doesn't make it any easier. She's heartbroken about it,
Sure.
right? You know, she really wanted to be able to do the high mid wire, right? And she's good at wire. She enjoys wire,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's, and also, uh, it means that there's things she's not going to now be able to do. One of the things she was looking forward to doing and training for on the high mid wire
Mm-hmm.
was to do a point, i.e.,
Oh,
ballet
with ballet,
shoes
with the ballet slips.
with ballet slippers
Yeah.
to do ballet
Ooh.
point ballet on a wire, right?
Wow.
And that's something that they don't really coach until you get to the high mid wire. And so, yeah, now she's got $100 pair of point shoes that she's never going to, no, we shouldn't say never going to use. She can use them to do ballet.
Sure.
At the point she decides to take some ballet classes in college or whatever. Yeah, no.
Or maybe down the line she decides, you know what, I'm going to give it another go, because there's that too.
Mm-hmm.
There is that.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know,
Sure.
It's funny because this reminds me of when I was doing comedy, right? So when I did comedy and performed, I did all three types. I did improv, I did sketch, and I did stand up. And guess how many I did exceptionally well?
One of them.
None really exceptionally well, because
Okay,
I was split too much. And I remember seeing, I think it was Seinfeld. It was either Seinfeld or somebody in that vein that said, if you're going to go into the field of comedy, you really have to pick one to kind of cut your teeth in, and then you can explore. So I had started in improv. Improv could have been the one. And I've seen people who were taking improv at the same time I was, and they're now teaching improv classes, and they're developing, and they've gone really deep into the. Dave Morris is a great example. He's a friend of mine that I've known for many years, out of Vancouver. He's now here in Victoria. His company, Paper Street Theater, they focus on improv, and they have built some amazing improv shows. But stand up, not a thing for them, right? Like, sketch, not really a thing. If I had decided to go down one path more specifically, I probably would have had the greater sense of resilience to stick with it, because I would have experienced more feedback that would allow me to get better and better at it. But that doesn't mean, to your point, that I wasn't going to miss the idea of doing improv, or the idea that I was, or sketch or whatever. But it doesn't mean sometimes this idea of letting go of stuff, people, when you're younger especially, it doesn't mean you're letting go of it forever necessarily. You can.
No.
But, and this kind of leads into the last area I want to talk about, as we get older, there's things that, like, so last 2 years ago, I went skiing with my family. The last time I went skiing, I was in grade 8. I did not like skiing. They're like, here's how you snowplow. Here's how this, I am not coordinated. And again, some of this is probably built from like me just being told I wasn't coordinated and so on and so forth. So you kind of believe that down the line. But I mean, my gifts don't lie in the athletic areas. My brother was definitely more athletic than I am, and that's fine. So we go skiing and because my son had never been skiing, my daughter had gone on a couple ski trips, and my wife had skied. So we went to from where I live in Victoria, there's a mountain called Mount Washington. It's a ski lodge. It's a ski hill about 3 hours north from where we are, if that. And it's great because we can drive to snow. Like, we don't experience snow very often in Victoria, but if you want snow, you could drive to it. And you can have skiing and all that, snowshoeing and all that stuff. So we go up there, and it is we rent skis, do all that stuff, and then we take a lesson, and we're on the bunny slopes, the small slopes. And I'm trying to do it, and I'm sucking at it. And my daughter, of course, and my wife are just there mainly to support my son and me as we both try to navigate this. My son is picking it up like nothing. He's like going down the hill, no issue.
Yeah, of course.
So
Don't
eventually
you hate those kids? I hate them.
Yeah. Well, eventually the instructor, I could tell, was like, okay, this guy's not getting it. And we're like, I'd like to move everyone on to the better, bigger hills. And so
Mhm.
eventually I see this. I'm very aware that I'm getting frustrated, but I have enough self-awareness and enough to go, okay, I can see that everyone's waiting on me and it's actually
Mhm.
making things worse for me. So, and it's
Mhm.
definitely making things worse for them. So I told them, I'm like, you guys go ahead. I'll just keep trying this.
Mhm.
I went up the little slope thing that the lift is, it's not really a chair lift on the bunny slope, but it's more like a moving sidewalk that goes up the hill. So I did that
Mhm.
and I went down and I crashed and burned again. And when I was sitting on the snow, I'm just like, nope, you know what? I don't need to do this. This is
Mm-mm.
not something that
Mhm.
I'm going to persevere, apply grit to. I have no desire. My resilience is there's no need. I have no desire
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
literally took the moving sidewalk up, went right back to the rental area. Like I had committed. Because once you hand those in, that's it. Your rental's done.
Yeah. So,
And they're like,
yep.
you've only
Yep.
been renting this for about an hour. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. And they're like, oh, not for you. I'm like, nope. And I kind of knew that coming up here and it was confirmed. And so I wonder if, number one, the biggest thing I love about getting older is that you can just decide that, yeah, this is not something I want to do.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you can be
Yeah.
okay with
This
that.
isn't me.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think that age has a role in resilience?
I certainly do, because age and experience help you define kind of what is, what matters, what doesn't, what is important, what is not.
Mm-hmm.
Helps you define your why. Helps you like I have a right helps you. I have a much better idea of and am comfortable with who I am,
Mm-hmm.
but more importantly, who I am not.
Right.
I am very comfortable, just like you're comfortable not being a skier. I'm very comfortable not being a lot of things too,
Yep.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. I don't need to be, right?
Yep.
There are things I don't need to be good at. There are things I don't need to take up, right? There are things that I should say no to. And I think, yes, that comes with age and experience, but also because of that age and experience, you learn that time is short, that you don't have a lot of it, that as you get older, it goes faster and faster and faster. That's the crazy thing. That's the thing that I want the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds listening to this podcast right now to get.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to understand that when you get to be about 45, 50, 55, that that 20 years is not a long time, because it doesn't feel like a long time,
That's right.
right? My wife and I just celebrated the 20th anniversary of our first date. We just
Congratulations.
celebrated it just about 3 days ago now, and yeah, thank you. And gosh, I could tell you everything about that night as if it just happened, because it feels like it did.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like like, where did this 20 years go, right?
Yep.
Oh my god, and if you have kids at 40 like I did, and you're seeing your 16-year-old, you're like, when did this happen? How did she was just 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How is she now about to go off the I don't understand. So, yeah. So your perception of time changes too, right? As you
Mm-hmm.
get older. And because of that, things become the things you say no to become as important, if not more so, than the things you say yes to, because you understand that you don't have that many more chances, opportunities. I don't, I hate to sound fatalistic about it. It's just the plain truth,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Um, as we wrap up, I'll share another quote that I think is apt too. I get knocked down,
Mm.
but I get back up again because ain't nothing going to keep me down. Chumbawamba, Chumbawamba.
Chumbawamba.
Oh man.
Yes, exactly.
So next time we're going to talk about alignment on our next
Mhm.
episode of PM Talks. I'm looking forward to that. Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
No, thank you for having me.
Where can people again keep up with what you've got going on?
PatrickRhone.com is if you want a link to all my stuff, but PatrickRhone.net if you want my near daily blog that I do on a variety of topics and subjects, just about anything that I find interesting or catches my eye, or things I just want to say. So those are the two best places for me.
Well, we'll see you next month.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
Before we let you go, don't forget to check out the show notes and everything related to this episode wherever you get your podcasts, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube even, or just go to mikevardy.com/podcast579. You can get everything there. That's one way to support the show, is to check out what we've got going on. Subscribing to the show is another way to make sure that we keep the lights on here. Another way to support the show is to check out the sponsors that you heard interspersed throughout our conversation today. Go to mikevardy.com/podcast sponsors. Click on any of the sponsors' links that resonate with you, and that way they know that we sent you. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time.